Everybody, I'd like to call the meeting to order. First item to do today is to welcome Jared to the board of the Bethlehem IDA. Jared, I've been through your resume and it looks like you're going to be a great fit for the board of the IDA, and we welcome you. We appreciate you taking the time to be part of the Bethlehem IDA. You got a great resume, and I think you're going to be a good big contributor to the meetings and all of the decisions that we have to make. So welcome, and thanks for being here.
Thank you. Look forward to working with everybody, and it looks like you guys all have pretty solid resumes yourself, so I'm sure I'll be learning a lot from everyone, and hopefully I can provide a perspective that's useful for you guys. So
yeah. Let's go around and introduce ourselves. I'll go first, and then we'll get Tom Conley to go through, and Al Michaels, and everybody else on the board. My name is Frank Venezia. I'm a CPA, retired from a firm probably about 4 years ago, and I teach full-time at the College of St. Rose. And I've been on the IDA board for 24 years and 9 months. Tom Conley, I think you can go quickly because you've already met Jared.
Yes, I've spent quite a bit of time talking to Jared. He knows who I am, executive director. I've been affiliated with the IDA for as long as Frank. And that's it.
Okay. Al?
Hey, I'm Al Michaels. I'm a CPA in practice in Albany and serve as the CFO and treasurer of this agency. I also do some work for the Albany County IDA, and I've been working with IDAs for a couple decades.
Victoria?
I'm actually working as an economic development consultant regionally and nationally. So a number of my clients are IDAs a little bit outside of this area. It gives me an additional perspective on questions in the lives of board members. My background is in public finance and bond issuance. I've been with the IDA, I think 10 years. I'd have to look it up. And it's been a great experience, and I am very happy to welcome you. I remember that terrific event down at Fink Equipment, and really very pleased to see you, Jared.
thank you.
Kate?
Good morning. I'm Kate Hedgeman. You can call me Kate instead of Catherine. Only my high school teachers will call me Catherine. But and I am an attorney at law, my own law firm, Hedgeman Law Firm, which is based right now at home in Slingerlands in Washington, D.C. I represent a lot of municipalities, LDCs, IDAs. I do a lot of real estate development as well. And I've been on the IDA, I don't know, I think it's a little over a year. Time flies, but with COVID, I can't remember, but I think it's close to a year, give or take.
Dick Cotlow?
Good morning and welcome. I'm Dick Cotlow. I'm also a CPA, retired. I was the CEO of UHY Advisors New York, practiced for 45 years, wide range of clientele. I've been with the IDA for about 3 years, plus or minus. And I think you'll find that the board is very engaged, and they're a good group of people to work with. So welcome.
Thanks.
Hey, Dave, you.
Hi, Jared. My name is Dave Cadera. I've been on the board for about 5 years now. I retired from the state in 2015 and joined the board in 2016. My last job with the state was I'm actually the original director and creator of the authority's budget office that set up this whole law that we now are required to follow. And so I've been involved with IDAs and public authorities for about the last 11 years or so. So actually more than that, 15 years, since 2006.
And is there anybody else that I missed? Oh, Dave. Hi, Dave. Dave Van Leuven.
Hi, Jared. I'm David Van Leuven. I'm the town supervisor. I'm not officially a member of the board, but I'm so grateful for all the great work that the board does, and I'm very pleased to have you stepping up to help us out. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
And I think I got everybody. Okay, let's go to the agenda. We got a lot of stuff to do today, a lot of approvals. First item on the agenda is to note that we have a quorum. So that's a great thing. Next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from the annual meeting back on February 26th. Any modifications or changes to the minutes? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the annual meeting of February 26th?
So moved.
Okay, can I get a second, please?
Second, this is Victoria.
Yeah. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed?
Who is the movement?
Dave.
Dave. The minutes from the regular meeting of February 26th. Can I, you've got the minutes, any modifications or changes? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of February 26th?
I'll move. This is Victoria.
Okay, thank you. A second, please?
Second. Dick.
Thanks, Dick. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Moving down to the report of the audit committee. We met with the auditors, Dick Kotlow, myself, and Al was there and Tom was there. We went over the draft financial statements. We made a few changes to those draft financial statements. We excused Al and Tom and had an executive session with the auditor. You've got some minutes there from that meeting. We also talked about the Paris report. We went through the Paris report. We had a few questions. There was some follow-up done with regard to the Paris report. Tom, that worked great. You got the information that we needed. We talked about the process for tracking closing fees. We looked at the charter. It was a good audit committee meeting. We got a lot of stuff done, and that got us to where we are today with the financial statements that we're going to talk about during the meeting today. You have the audit committee meetings, the draft minutes, meeting minutes, and I just see one change in there that when it talked about the sales tax exemptions, we need to change that because I think it's an ST62 and instead of an SR62. But we'll check that out and make sure we get that before the audit committee approves the minutes when we next meet. Next item is communications. Tom, were there any communications?
No communications.
Okay. I understand Rob can't be with us today, so Tom, you're going to give his report?
Yes, Rob said there was nothing new to report except good news. Burt Crane started construction this week, so we'll be having a closing soon.
Great.
Great.
That's fantastic.
Is there a groundbreaking scheduled, you know? Or nothing, no ceremony because of COVID?
I would say, I don't think we've, except for Vista Technology Park, we have, there are seldom, I should say, never that I recall, groundbreaking ceremonies.
Okay, well, that's fine. It's just a big deal for me to have shovel in the ground in one of our projects. I think it's great. So
I see groundbreakings done elsewhere in the state when IDAs have important projects, and I would certainly support if other members felt that we could at least reach out and ask if there could be something to celebrate that shovel.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of that too. Tom, why don't you look into that?
I'll call Burt Crane and sound them out on groundbreaking.
Okay. All right. And so that's all of Rob's report, both the planning and the economic development?
Yes,
Okay.
that's
thank
it.
you. All right, let's move to the financial statements, the current financial statements for the month of February. Al?
You have the financial statements for the month of February 2021. Statement of net assets. The cash account at M&T is $449,326.90. Other current assets, prepaid expenses of $3354.18. Gives us total current assets and total assets of $452,681.08. Liabilities, the accrued expenses, reimbursements due to the town for services and payroll is $17,870.33, leaving us with net assets of $434,810.75. And of course, total liabilities and equity $452,880 or $681.08. The income statement for the month of February, fee income total year to date is $30,388.58. Salaries and wages $8,094.68. Contractual expenses $15,074. And employee benefits $13,5250. So our total expenses is $24,447.92. Leaving us with ordinary income of $59,40.66. Adding back our interest, $59,74.99. We compare actual to budget. We're still ahead of budget, both in our fee income, because we recognize all of our annual fee income in January, and our PSEG reimbursement, because those numbers came in a little higher than we had budgeted. On the expense side, salaries and wages, of course, are on target. Contractual expenses are a little high because February is when we pay our audit fee. So that's one of our larger expenditures, and it's done for the year. Employee benefits are online. So our net income year to date, we are $15,864 better than budget, mostly because our income's up a little bit, and if we have that closing, we should keep our budget all year. Are there any questions on the financials?
Okay, thanks. All right, so in your packet, there's a set of financial statements, and those are not, I apologize, those are not the financial statements that the audit committee approved when we met on March 12th. I'm going to put up now the actual financial statements that we did approve, because there were significant changes between the ones that were in the packet and the ones that we're going to go through right now. And not that it's a big deal, but in the table of contents, what we had the auditors do is separate out the basic financial statements from what's called required supplementary information and the other supplementary information, just so it's clear to the user of the financial statements the difference between what the basic financial statements are and the other items that are in there. The the MD&A, Management Discussion and Analysis, the one that you read or looked at didn't change substantially from the one that you're looking at here. There was some information here about the financial highlights, the fact that we have some conduit bonds, the service agreement with the town. This area right here, the COVID-19 grant program, in the one that's in the packet that you looked at, that wasn't in there. This is something that we added at Dick's suggestion in the MD&A to explain as part of the short version of the financial statements, the fact that we authorized the appropriation of $25,000 to provide eligible entities for COVID-19 relief. So again, this is an addition to, and it gives the reader an understanding of one of the things that we did that was significant during the 2020 year. Nothing else changed in the MD&A of any significance. This is the independent auditor's report on the financial statements. The best thing about it is that it's an unmodified report, basically explaining that they audited the financial statements And in their opinion, the financial statements are fairly presented and in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles. And so this is known as an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. And this is just takes you through all of the responsibilities of the auditor and so on. They also explain that when it comes to the required supplementary information, what's called RSI, there's two pieces of RSI. There was the management discussion and analysis, as well as the comparison of budget to actual later on in the financial statements. They're explaining here that they did not audit that information. What they did was they looked at it and read it to see that it was consistent with the financial statements. And you can see right down here, they're not going to express an opinion on that information because they didn't audit it. But they believe it's in conformity with the requirements of the presentation. The other supplemental information, there's some other supplemental information, and it's the Paris report. They're not going to give an opinion on the Paris report. And so in our financial statement package, we have the MD&A, the financial statements, and the Paris report. And we do not engage them to audit the Paris report because we don't have to have that report audited. They finished the audit and dated it February 17th, 2021, and they're ready to issue as soon as we give the go-ahead. In the statement of net position, which is the balance sheet, the only thing that changed in the packet, between the packet and these financial statements, is down here, the committed net position. This $18,471 represents the difference between the $25,000 that we committed to provide for COVID-19 relief and the amount that we actually dispersed, some 6,000 some odd dollars during 2020. And when the IDA board made the decision to provide the COVID-19 relief, we said the program would run through December 31st, 2021. So that's why at December 31st, 2020, there's $18,471 that is still committed by the board of the IDA to fund grants if businesses in the town of Bethlehem apply. In the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position, it presents the $67,000 of our operating revenue, contractual expenses. And one of the things that is different about this, if you look at the one in your packet compared to this one, is we moved out from contractual expenses the COVID-19 grant program disbursements that we made. During 2020, we dispersed $6,529 in COVID grants. The original one that you probably saw it's in this number here, contractual expenses, and we believe that it needs to be separated out to clearly identify that that's not an operating expense. It's a special item that needed to be segregated. The change in net position, which is basically our loss for 2020, we had a loss of about $37,000 compared to about $102,000 in the previous year. Nothing really changed significantly in the statement of cash flows other than the COVID-19 grant program item here. Basically, what we're trying to do in the statement of cash flows is give the reader of the financial statements an understanding of where the cash came from and where it went to. Operating activities used about $31,000 in cash. The investing activities were about a $3,700 use of cash. Our net decrease in cash was about $34,000 from the beginning of the year. At the beginning of the year, we had 56. So the cash at the end of the year, $421,000. The next pages begin the notes to the financial statements, a lot of explanations and amplifications about different things going on in the financial statements, the basis of accounting that we use, the estimates that are involved in the financial statements. One of the changes that we made was the note related to the receivables. We added the information similar to what we had there last year about there's quote, an allowance for doubtful accounts related to the money that we expended related to Monolith Solar. The fact is that we have billed them for it, but we are not expecting to collect that money. Nothing significant in the rest of the notes until we get to the commitments. Again, it talks about the fact that the agency committed $25,000 to provide COVID relief, and the balance that is in the commitment section of net position represents the difference between what we granted and the balance of $25,000. There's a note in here about uncertainty. Just about every single audit that I've seen from 2019 all the way through 2020 has a note in there about the uncertainties related to the issues related to COVID and the financial impact, the potential for financial impact on the financial statements. This is the other required supplemental information. It's the comparison of budget to actual. One of the things that we requested is that they call it a revised budget, because during 2020 we revised our budget. And this is the revised budget. This is the actual, and this is the comparison, whether it be favorable or unfavorable. This is a required disclosure for any governmental entity. This is just a presentation of the conduit financing with this is not on the IDA's books, but we are the conduit that provides the financing for Vista Development and American Housing Foundation, and this is a required disclosure that's got to be there. And that takes you through the financial statements. This is the auditor's report on internal control over financial reporting. So this report is here specifically to give the user of the financial statement an understanding of what responsibility the auditor has when it comes to the agency's internal control over financial reporting. And if you ever look at publicly traded entities, you would note that the auditor in a publicly traded entity has to give an opinion on the effectiveness of the internal control over financial reporting. Well, in a non-publicly traded entity situation and in a government, they do not have to give an opinion on internal control over financial reporting, but they do have to look at the internal control over financial reporting. And it's in essence how the numbers get from transactions through the work that Al does into the actual financial statements. This is what they're looking at. And they're not going to give an opinion, but they will state that they looked at the internal control for the purpose of performing the audit. And if they found any what we call material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, and they highlight what the definitions are here, they'd report them. They would have to report them in this report. They did not find any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in our internal control over financial reporting. But they didn't look at the entire system. They're not giving an opinion on it. It's just a report on internal control, making sure that we understand they're not giving an opinion. And if they found anything that if they saw it as part of looking through what they needed to look through, they'd report it here. They also look at our compliance with laws and regulations. And again, they're not giving an opinion, but they look at the laws and the regulations that the IDA is subject to, and they look at them for the potential impact on the financial statements. They did not have any issues with our compliance with laws and regulations. After this Appendix 1 would be the Paris report, and we'll go through that report. But again, you got to remember they did not audit this report, nor are they giving an opinion on the report. In fact, they're disclaiming an opinion on the report because they were not engaged to audit that report. Any questions or comments? Dick, do you have any, or Anybody else on the financial statements?
I have one. First of all, perfect job, Mr. Chairman.
Oh,
Good job.
thank you.
And we did tweak one of our internal control policies with respect to cash disbursements that we discussed at the audit committee meeting, and Tom and probably Alan and Frank, they worked on it, and we got a new narrative on that. It's not really significant, but that was one item that came out of the meeting.
Yep. And we'll approve that at the next audit committee meeting for 2021. Thanks. Okay, hearing no questions or changes or modifications to the financial statements, can I get a motion to approve the financial statements for 2020?
So moved, Dave.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thanks.
I wasn't going because I'm on the committee, but I'll do it
Yeah.
anyhow.
Okay. Okay, so a move and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Thank you. All right, so next we're going to go to, and I'm going to close this one. And hang on, these are the ones that were in the packet that. Okay. So this letter from the auditors is what we call SAS 114. It's a statement on auditing standards. It's a report by the auditors to those charged with governance. It's to the board about the conduct of the audit. Now, we met with the auditors and they verbally talked to us about the conduct of the audit. We had an executive session, and this is the public version, if you will, of that report. They look at our accounting policies. So under US GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, there are different selections that management can make when it comes to accounting policies for the agency. We made selections a long time ago. We haven't changed any of those policies, and they're all in conformity with GAAP. So that's, in my opinion, and this is the auditor's opinion about whether or not those policies are appropriate for our organization. And they come down here and they talk about certain policies and disclosures are sensitive. Financial statements, they believe, are neutral, consistent, and clear. So this is just it's a public document that is the result of their audit. And it says basically they're in agreement with the policies that we are using with regard to our internal control over financial reporting that results in the financial statements. If they had any difficulties encountered in performing the audit, we would hear about them here. They would present them in writing. We would have heard about them as part of the audit committee meeting, but this is the public document where they said there were no difficulties in dealing with management in performing and completing our audit. Corrected and uncorrected misstatements. What this means is that as part of the audit, they look at the numbers that Al has put into those financial statements. And if they had to change one of those numbers because it was incorrect, they would tell us about that. And they would write in this letter, we suggest they can't change our financial statements, but they have to make a recommendation to us. And we would have to approve that change. They would tell us about that change here, what it was. For example, if they told us that, you need to increase the allowance for uncollectible receivables, they would tell us about that journal entry here so that people outside of the audit committee would know that, hey, those financial statements, there was a change that was suggested by the auditor. There were no changes suggested by the auditor. They found no. Corrected would be we fixed it, or uncorrected, it was small enough that we didn't have to fix it. They would tell us about both of those things right here. And there were no misstatements detected during the audit, which is a great thing, which says basically that the financial statements that we look at on a periodic basis are correct And so we can make our economic decisions with some level of confidence that the interim as well as the final financial statements are giving us the right information. Disagreements with management. If they had disagreements as part of the application of an accounting principle or the performance of an audit procedure, they would tell us about any disagreements. There were no disagreements at all. Management representations. These financial statements are our financial statements. They never belong to the auditor. So we have to make certain representations to the auditor as part of our responsibility for those financial statements. They're written, and it's in what's called a management representation letter. It outlines all of the different representations that are being made to the auditor. If they don't get the management representation letter, they would not be able to issue an audit opinion. They got that letter and they're happy with the representations in there. Consultation with other independent accountants. Lots of times when there's a question about how to handle a particular transaction or how to present it in the financial statements, we might consult with our current auditors and maybe some other outside accountants because we want to get another opinion. We didn't have any transactions like that. And so there were no consultations with other independent accountants about any financial transactions. Other audit findings or issues. This is basically going to their independence. We didn't have any discussions about anything with them that would lead to a compromise in their independence. In the other matters, the budget to actual, they didn't give an opinion on that, and that just tells you that information there. And this is a limitation, basically. It can be distributed to other people, but it's warning them that if you don't know the full story, you can't rely on this for anything other than the purpose of this particular report. So that's the SAS 114 letter. The report on investment guidelines. So as part of the requirements being a public authority, we have to comply with certain guidelines with regard to our investments. Now, our investments consist of basically CDs and cash. And so the auditor has to look at whether or not we complied with the requirements. And since we're just CDs and cash, there's no big significant requirement there, but they still have to look at that. They give this opinion down here. We complied in all material respects with the requirements of the investment guidelines. And that gets us through all of the stuff related to the audit. Okay. Next, as part of being a public authority, we have a system of internal control over financial reporting. Again, I mentioned this before. It's how the numbers get from transactions to the processing by what Al does into the financial statements. And as part of being a public authority, we have to make an assessment of the effectiveness of internal control over financial reporting. And we have to post this on our website. So we looked at the internal control over financial reporting. It's a process designed to provide reasonable assurance regarding the reliability of financial reporting and the preparation of financial statements for external reporting purposes in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We assessed the effectiveness. We looked at it. We talked about it. We believe that the internal control over financial reporting was effective as of December 31st, 2020. And one of the reasons I believe that it's true, in beyond knowing how the internal control works, is the auditors looked at it as part of their audit. They didn't come up with any weaknesses that they thought there were in the internal control over financial reporting. We believe that the internal control over financial reporting was effective. So what we need to do as a board is approve this assessment of internal control for 2020. Any questions about this? So can I get a motion to approve the assessment of the effectiveness of the internal control for 2020?
Motion.
Can I get a second?
Second, this is Victoria.
Thank you. Everybody in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Okay. Next. Hang on, let's see. We've got the Paris report. Okay, the Paris report is pretty long. I think it's 30 pages long. We went through the Paris report as part of the audit committee meeting, and we made a couple of changes. I think it was on, well, as you know, everybody's name's listed. So hopefully you looked and made sure that whatever there was related to your name was appropriate. And if it wasn't, you got to tell us now. We made a change for Tim Minichia. I forget, he had a job one place, but he took another one. Tom, do you remember what that was?
I can't remember what his specific job is, but it's with the Hudson River, Black River Regulating District.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
His bottom yes and no changed. He does have an elected or appointed state government position, yes. Before it was no, because he had a county position, so the one below was yes. So we flip-flopped his yeses and nos.
Okay. All right. So, yeah. So in the past, this item right here was a no, and this item right here was a yes. Now it's been changed to yes and no, as Al mentioned.
Tom, when I spoke with you about elected versus appointed, I don't know at the time what I was thinking, but I am on the New York State Commission for National and Community Service. I was appointed by Patterson and Cuomo, and I'm still on that. So I completely forgot about that. I don't know whether we have to change that now.
So
It's
a state appointment.
yes.
So why don't we just show it, Al?
Oh, that's an easy change. Yeah, it'll take me longer to talk about it than it will to do it.
Okay. So this right here would change from no to yes?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have any changes? Okay. This is all the information about our personnel information. It's all about different benefits and whether or not any of the people on the board get any benefits. As you know, we get no benefits. The only benefit is monthly meetings with all of you. This is just a replication of the financial statements that we just went over. It's the financial piece of the Paris report. It follows basically the financial statements, and there's no changes or significant changes from the financial statements at all. And it's important to note, as Al tells me all the time, you can't change the Paris report as far as captions. You just have to plug in where things most likely fit, because we can't change that. Okay. This is about the conduit debt that we already talked about in the financial statements themselves. And let's see, this gets us to a page related to each of the individual projects. A lot of this information is embedded. In other words, once you put it in there, you can't change it. Though some of the information over here we can change. It's important to understand that Al sends out in January or late December an information request to the projects to get information about the current job situation, salaries, and so on. And that's how he gets this information to fill in this section here for each of the individual projects. So there's 35 Hamilton, there's Air Products. When we met as an audit committee, this section was not complete. Tom had been reaching out to try and get it, as well as Al. Tom was successful in getting that information to complete this section for Air Products. It was because of a change in their administrative positions that we were unable initially to get the information, but we got that information. And again, these are just the different projects for the IDA. Does anybody have any modifications or changes to any of these areas? Questions? Jared, you'll know this one. This is you.
Yeah, my OL some info, actually, I'm not sure.
Okay, and that gets us through there. The only other thing that's going to go with the Paris report, I know it's hard to see, maybe I can make it just a little bit bigger, is the different COVID-19 grants that we made during 2020. This is a required disclosure part of the Paris report.
Yeah, Frank, I don't know if that mechanically actually gets attached to the Paris report as much as I have to just email it to the ABO.
Okay.
And reference the fact that it's the Town of Bethlehem Industrial Development Agency.
Okay.
And I imagine they have a way of connecting it. They're pretty clever down there.
Okay. All right. So, can I get a resolution to approve the Paris report for 2020?
So moved.
Everybody.
Everybody.
All right. So I heard Dave.
Dave and Dick, I think.
Okay. And Dick.
Either order.
Okay. Dave's the mover. Dick, you're the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Mission statement.
So this forum was created by the members of the Bethlehem IDA to take a different look at the data on jobs and the data on investments, which is derived from the Paris report. So in terms of jobs, in the year 2020, there were 294 total jobs. Of those jobs, 163 existed prior to the IDA project granting of tax exemptions. Of those jobs, 163 jobs, 141 have been retained today. 153 new jobs have been created. With respect to capital investment, we've got 11 ongoing projects. The total capital investment of those 11 projects is $460,620,000. We have granted abatements totaling $3,507,000. We are getting pilot payments of $4,507,000. And I guess that's the end of the report. Any questions?
This is a report that gets posted on our website, and it's a quick one-page review for someone, rather than going through all of the Paris report to see what happened, what's happened with the IDA for 2020. So we need a motion to approve the performance measures for 2020.
So moved. This is Victoria.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second, Dave.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. All right. The annual investment report. Al.
You have the annual investment report. The one that I'm going to post, upload to the parish report will have the more up-to-date letterhead. We have a few names on this one that are no longer involved with the board, but it just shows our annual investment report. At the end of the year, we had all of our funds at the M&T Bank. We had closed out the CD that we had at Trustco, and it was transferred back to the bank. I'm trying to get a new CD, hoping rates sneak up a little bit. And we just we talk about what where we have our money, where we might put our money if we decide to change, and the fact that we paid no fees to brokers. We follow the investment guidelines, and Cusack and Company. I've got to change that to 2020 now. Most recent, yeah, I got to change both the dates on that one.
Great.
And the inventory of our investments, as I said, is the M&T Bank, and the investment income record. We had earned more money in 2020 because we had a higher return on a CD that matured in December of 2020.
So, any questions about the investment report? Can I get a motion to approve the investment report with the changes that have to be made? Changing this to 2020. We got a little bit of a problem down here with 2,521.0, but we'll fix that. And
Right.
a new letterhead. Can I get a motion to approve the investment report with those changes?
So moved, Dick.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second, Dave. All right, Victoria,
Thank you.
I defer.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. The procurement report.
The procurement report is another one of the reports required for the parish report. It's a separate tab than the other report that we look at. But in fact, we talk about our procurements. Reportable procurements are for amounts over $5,000. So we report our two that we had in 2020, the town of Bethlehem for the service agreement of $50,000, and then with myself for the services as the CFO at $900 a month. And that's also reported on the procurement report at the parish system. Those are the two procurements. Other years we have had procurements with Hodgson Russ when we had the issue with the monolith. But these are the two for 2020.
Any questions? Can I get a motion to approve the procurement report?
Motion?
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second, Dave.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I didn't second.
Dave.
Dave. Okay. Next, the real property report.
We report for the year 2020 that the agency did not own any real property. And for
Can I
that,
get a motion? Can I get a motion to approve it?
So moved, Dick.
Thank you, Dave. Dick. And a second?
Second, Victoria.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Let's see. Any more reports? No, I guess not. Okay. Back to the agenda. All right. So we did all of those. Okay. We're up to number 9. And, there were no, so there were no applications for the COVID-19 grant program. Okay. Any other business?
I just had a question, and it's before my time. So for the Vista pilot that we had on the Paris report, that project, and I think I'm going to take a look at the pilot agreement. I can talk to Joe or, get a copy. But my question is, was the project and the pilot, as part of all that Vista, recruit tech companies. And they really haven't done that. So, I just want to take a look at this pilot and make sure that, we're moving either towards that direction or, what's going to happen to the property if they ultimately don't do that. And the pilot's up in 2 years. I think it's 2023 says. So I don't know if any of you recall that project, and if it's the requirement is for the tech companies, obviously had to be part of that. It's the zoning, right?
Tom, you want to handle it?
Kate, this is Tom. The use of the tech property is governed by the zoning ordinance, and this is a mixed economic development zone. In addition to that, the MED zone requires a master plan for the footprint of the MED district. So all of those are controlled by the town. The IDA has nothing to do with the uses. So you won't find any uses in the pilot agreement.
Okay, but the project proposal would have been to recruit tech, correct, or no?
I don't think so, because
Okay.
the MED district and the master plan don't require tech. The tech is really advertising as part of the name. That's the hope, that tech is going to be in there, but the master plan allows yoga studios. It allows, in certain circumstances, condominiums. It allows all kinds of uses, allows the uses that you see right now. The ShopRite, medical office buildings.
So conceivably, for that particular land back in there, which happens to be my backyard, any business that meets that use, the zoning code requirements could relocate there.
Yeah, they have to comply with the zoning ordinance. So right now, they've maxed out on retail uses. So they can't, the next use has to be a different use. The master plan determines what's a primary use, what's a secondary use, and retail use is a secondary use, and only 20% of the project or the land can be dedicated to retail, for example, and they're at 20% now. So the next project that takes place has to be a primary use.
Okay.
But it's not necessarily tech. Everybody was hoping for tech. That's why tech is in the name, but it's not a requirement.
Okay. Thanks for the explanation. I that clears a lot of things up. So I was just curious.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Can I add too that the Startup New York program that was put out by the state a few years ago effectively cut our legs off for tech in that park, because if you were a tech company, you could locate very close to UAlbany or any other college and receive massive tax benefits. And I don't think we were close enough to UAlbany for a company coming into that park and getting those same incredible tax benefits. So that in defense of Columbia Development, I think he's had a tough time attracting people simply because it's more attractive for them to be closer to college.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to get a better understanding of what we want there and what the limitations are, but that all makes sense. I don't know if we actively or he actively markets it, but it's kind of, they built the retail and then it's just kind of sitting there. So that's why I ask all these questions,
Yeah, good questions. Any other new business? Hearing none, just a reminder, our next meeting is Friday, April 23rd, 8 o'clock, continue to be remote, and that there's a governance committee on Friday, April 23rd at 8:30 or thereabouts that follows our regular meeting. Thanks everybody for being here today and getting through all of the important information for us to file the Paris report and the other documents that have to go on the website. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So
Okay, we'll give that to Dave Cadera, and can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Thanks, everybody, and I'll see you on April 23rd.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, Tom, can you stay on for just a second?
Yes,